Let's go to the trade tower again, because, John, we now have a... What do we have? We don't...
Wow. It looks like a new plume, a new large plume of smoke.
Dan, can you tell us what has just happened?
Yes, Peter, it's Don Daly down here. I'm 4 blocks north of the World Trade Center. The second building that was hit by the plane has just completely collapsed. It's folded down on itself, and it is not there anymore.
Wow. That should be it.
Thanks very much, Dan.
Completely collapsed.
A few years ago, I made a video about Ernest Armstead and the most disturbing story from 9/11. In the video, I said that many stories and legends have since been proven to be fake, such as the man that survived the catastrophe by surfing debris as one of the buildings collapsed. As the many comments under the video have already made clear, this statement wasn't entirely true, but it wasn't untrue either. And so in this video, I will tell the story of Pasquale Buzzelli, the man that surfed the Twin Towers. Shortly after the 9/11 attack, the media and online were rife with wild rumours and stories, some that were shockingly true, while others were merely fabricated in the chaos that followed. One such rumour that made the rounds was that an office worker trapped in one of the upper floors of one of the World Trade Center towers managed to ride the falling debris as the building collapsed around him. Some claimed he used a piece of wood or concrete like a surfboard, riding the imploding cloud of destruction. Other accounts claim he used the hot air currents, which safely jettisoned him out of harm's way and cushioned his landing. Regardless of the exact version you read, the story ends the same, with the office worker casually emerging from the destruction with nothing more than a few scratches. In these exaggerated accounts, the man is described as coming from floors as high as the 92nd floor of the North Tower, the crash site of the first plane, American Airlines Flight 11. In some versions of the tale, it isn't an office worker at all that survives, but instead a firefighter that bravely went into the tower. Naturally, this version of the tale is more triumphant, showcasing America's defiance and survival in the face of terror. But sadly, none of these accounts are the full truth, but instead scraps of other stories or comments that have been twisted into fantasy. The rumours were likely started by a New York Times article written shortly after Sergeant McLaughlin was rescued from the collapsed buildings during the search and rescue attempts. McLaughlin, a veteran of the Port Authority police force, was pulled from the rubble the day after the attack. Although in critical condition, he was expected to survive. According to the aforementioned article written about him, no one knows how Sergeant McLaughlin survived Tuesday's collapse, or even where he was when the buildings fell. His colleagues said he was probably outside the South Tower when it came down, but a battalion chief at the rescue said that Sergeant McLaughlin was on the 82nd floor of the building when it came down. The exact whereabouts of McLaughlin were initially unknown. However, after 2 weeks, Sergeant McLaughlin's brother spoke to the media on his behalf. He made it clear that McLaughlin had been on the ground floor when the tower collapsed, not the 82nd floor. Another piece of the rumour involves Port Authority officer David Lim, who was also pulled from the rubble. He was on the 44th floor when the second plane hit, and it was originally reported that he survived on this floor when the building collapsed. However, instead of surviving from this floor, David actually made his way down to the 4th floor before the building collapsed. Let's now focus on the truth. Pasquale Buzzelli. Another Port Authority worker, Pasquale worked on the 64th floor of the North Tower. Pasquale was descending the building using Stairwell B, along with Janelle Guzman McMillan. When they reached what Pasquale believed to be the 22nd floor, the North Tower began to crumble and fall around them. It's worth mentioning that Janelle believes they were actually on the 13th floor, so there's still debate about how high they actually were. Pasquale lost consciousness as he was buried in debris. He was later discovered by a fireman sifting through the wreckage and was rescued. Besides a fractured foot and some scrapes, he was otherwise fine. Janelle's injuries were more severe, suffering a crushed right leg. She was not rescued until the following day. The rumours that circulated in the aftermath of 9/11, while frequently lacking any evidence, exposed humanity's quest for explanation and a glimmer of optimism and triumph amidst the overwhelming despair of that fateful day. Pasquale Buzzelli and Janelle Guzman McMillan did not surf the Twin Towers, but that does not make their story of survival any less significant. They were two of only 16 people that were pulled from the ruins of the World Trade Center. That alone is a miracle.